Hello and welcome to this blog on configuring the Victron MultiPlus 24 volt 3000 watt 70 amp combination charger inverter using the MK3 USB interface dongle. So the MultiPlus is a scary beast at first sight, but you really only need to know about a few elements inside. If you want to see how I physically install it, then you'll have to look back at a previous blog. This one's just about how to program it. You can do basic configuration using the MultiPlus's dip switches, but for more detailed configuration it's recommended that you use the Victron Connect app, and to do this you need to use the MK3 USB interface dongle, and this has to be bought separately. Although it looks very similar to the VE.Smart dongle, which operates and displays information from the MultiPlus via Bluetooth, it's a very different device. You can't use the VE.Smart dongle to program or configure the MultiPlus. This has to be done by the MK3 USB interface dongle, which isn't Bluetooth enabled and has to be physically plugged in using an RJ45 cable into your computer. Apart from the basic LED light displays, it doesn't have a dedicated display and instead sends the information via Bluetooth to the Victron app. Keep up. Why they've made it so complicated like this, I've no idea. I mean, Victron are usually quite user-friendly, but on this occasion I don't think they've quite made the mark. So these are the basic component parts in the MultiPlus that you need to know about. The dip switches used for basic programming. VE ports for the VE.Smart dongle and the VE MK3 USB dongle. Either one of these ports can be used for either one of the dongles. AC input from the shore power and generator. AC primary output going to the 220 volt panel, or if you've got an American built boat, then it'll be a 110 volt panel, in which case you'll need the 110 volt MultiPlus. AC secondary output, which only works with the shore or the generator power. DC positive terminal connected to the battery bank. DC negative terminal also connected to the battery bank. Ports for various sensors if you have a more complicated system than mine. There's the main processor and the serial and the model number if you ever need to communicate with Victron. The charger status display LEDs and the inverter status display LEDs. So let's look at the setup. First of all, be careful if you do a firmware update, as it will default all of your settings back to factory settings and you'll have to manually input all the settings again. I struggled to find any updated Victron Connect app settings for this particular MultiPlus for my batteries, but this is what I put together from various sources. If you want more detailed description of what these settings do, then just go to the Victron website. So I'm just going to program the MultiPlus to work with the Lithiums. So I need my MK3 to USB bus. And I've already got an Ethernet cable, RJ45, already connected up. But I got some strange readings before, and I was just reading up, and apparently you're supposed to take off the VE.Smart dongle when you're doing this, because it confuses the readings, and that might explain why I had some confusing readings before. Because I've got a Mac, I haven't got a standard USB port, so I need to find an adapter for that. But I've heard a lot of criticism about these MultiPlus, the fact that they haven't got the Bluetooth built in. I've got a Phoenix inverter that does that, I've got the MPPT controller that does that, but for some reason in the MultiPlus you've got to buy this extra interface and then do all this rigmarole, because you can get the smart dongle, which actually works by Bluetooth, but you can't actually program with it. Right, so I've already got the Victron Connect app downloaded. So there's a smart dongle, but I've got that disconnected now from the thing. So there's the MultiPlus. Okay, so at the moment we're just on charger. Everything's switched off at the moment. So they do this password thing as well, which the password's easy found on the internet. I don't know why people don't mention what the code is, maybe some legal reason. Charger, this is where we need to go, enable charger. So we're in the settings now. I'm just going to go to general. We're on 50 Hertz. American boats might have a setting of 60 Hertz. 50 amp, yep, that's fine. Current limit overall by remote. I'm not sure that refers to the smart dongle, so I'll leave that on. Dynamic current limit off. Enable battery monitor off. Next we've got the grid. Accept wide input frequency range on. UPS function off. So UPS function stands for uninterrupted power supply. So basically, if the generator cuts out, it'll switch seamlessly to battery power, but unless you've got a very good generator with a clean sine wave, it's recommended this is switched off. So I'm just going to go with the recommendations on that. Typically I'll leave all of these set. The inverter side, again we're on a 230 volt system, being a European boat. Ground and relay, so there's a warning there not to disconnect that. So again, leaving that. The DC input low shutdown, even though that the Battleborns have got their own battery management system which will close things down before it actually does any damage. They do recommend that you set this a little bit higher than the BMS so it doesn't shut the batteries down. It'll be the MultiPlus that shuts it down. So Battleborn recommend 11.5 volts, so at 24 that would be 23 volts, and for the restart they recommend 12.5 volts, which would be 25. And the DC input low pre-alarm, Battleborn recommend 12 volts, so 24 volts, that would be 24. Okay, so that'll give us a little bit of warning before it actually starts doing anything. Low state of charge shut off, keeping that disabled for lithium batteries. AES is kind of an energy saving thing in the MultiPlus, but I've had problems with this in the Phoenix inverter before. When the inverter is in idle, it'll typically draw a couple of watts, maybe even up to 15, and this kind of prevents that because it keeps checking whether there's any demand and then kind of shutting it down. But I've had problems with the induction hob and things like that on this particular setting, so I'm going to leave that off and just remember that, like on the night time when I don't need the inverter anymore, then I'll just turn it off using the smart dongle. All those are disabled. So power assist, if you're on shore power or a generator and there's not enough power to run whatever it is you've got on the boat, then it'll start drawing from the batteries. I never think we'll get to that point, but I'm going to leave that in there just in case. So moving on to the charger settings, as you can see I've already changed these. It automatically resets them when you switch over to lithium batteries anyway. As you can see I've switched over to lithium, and obviously this is double what it would be on a 12 volt system. It'll only let me put a maximum of 70 amps, which I guess is the limit of the MultiPlus. So 70 amps is the maximum on that one. Everything is being preset by the lithium settings, so I'll double check that with the Battleborn documentation. So Battleborn recommends 14.4 for the absorption, so I've just doubled that to 28.8. The float voltage they reckon 13.6, which would be 27.2, so I'll just reduce that slightly. This may seem counterintuitive, but the terms are a leftover from the old lead acid charge curves. The absorption time they recommend 30 minutes per 100 amp hours, so we've got 400 amp hours at 24, so 4 hours I guess that is. I'm not sure whether they allow for 24 volts, but let's just do it 4 hours. The BMS inside the Battleborn batteries will be trying to equalize those batteries during that absorption phase because it's a constant current. Finally, we've got the AC control. Those have been basically disabled by the lithium setting, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. And the rest is just FAQs or help manuals. So that was the MultiPlus configured using the MK3 USB interface dongle. And now all that was left to do was protect and regulate the alternator, which will be in the final blogs of this lithium upgrade series. That's it, ta-ta for now, and see you in the next vlog. So thanks for watching, and thanks especially to our patrons who make all of this possible. These blogs are created on a very tight budget, so if you'd like to support us, you can follow the links to Patreon or PayPal in the description below. Or buy a t-shirt, or even click on one of the adverts. Every little helps.